the quads and asked students what they thought of a set of Trump quotes. But, here's the kicker, they were actually quotes from Kamala Harris. Watch this.
What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. Would you vote for someone who said that?
No, I wouldn't, because I believe young people are the future.
I personally would not. I feel like the younger people are actually a lot more educated than the older people.
No, I would not vote for someone like that. Talking about us being stupid means that he doesn't respect us.
The person who actually said this is Joe Biden's vice presidential candidate, Kamala Harris.
I bet that came as a surprise. Right. Here is Cabot Phillips, Campus Reform Editor-in-Chief. Gee, Cabot, I thought those youngsters knew everything and always got it right.
They were very surprised when they found that out, and you can see the full video to see what all of their reactions were. And Stuart, this is the reaction, and this is the result when you teach an entire generation to not think critically. We are now teaching, as we've covered at the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform in class, we are teaching students, make up your mind based on who it's coming from, and don't ask any questions, just support it if it's coming from the left. And so every day, if you're a young person and you hear, well, I have to oppose it if it's coming from a conservative or from President Trump, or I need to support it if it's coming from a Democrat or from the left, you're going to blindly pledge allegiance to whatever the movement is coming from the left, and you're not going to think critically for yourself. So we're going to have millions of young Americans who, according to these students, are more educated than any older Americans. You're going to have them going to the polls and voting without actually knowing what they're voting for, but simply voting because they've been terrified into actually asking questions about the platforms and making up their minds for themselves. And that is a dangerous thing for the future of our country.
But traditionally, youngsters have a very low turnout, even in presidential elections. Much lower turnout than, say, seniors or middle-aged people. Am I right?
You are right. That's what we've seen throughout the election. And this year, I do think there's also going to be a struggle for the Biden campaign to get people enthusiastic about his campaign, because right now, a lot of the ways they're motivating young people, as we've seen talking to them, I've talked to thousands of young people in the last 4 years with Campus Reform, and people are saying, well, it's all about getting Trump out of office. And that's not exactly a powerful narrative to get people. You have to get them for something, not just against something. And if you need the real world impacts of bias in media and bias on social media, this is it. If this had been an actual quote from Trump or any Republican, it would be blown up. It would be everywhere. But because it was coming from a Democrat like Kamala Harris, the media swept it under the rug. They had an incentive to not let it get out. And that's why you see these types of reactions from the students. I've done this with multiple topics across the board. If you tell people it's coming from the left, they instantly love it. They don't think critically about the actual concept. And that's what we need to start to change here if we're going to start to reverse this trend of young people falling for the trap of the far left.
It doesn't change, does it? I mean, you can go back 100 years and people in their late teens, early 20s, always been liberal. And I use that word in quotation marks. It's always been like this, right?
It doesn't change if we continue to have the mindset that people are going to be liberal. I think we need to have the idea of not just saying young people, we need to teach them to be conservative. All we're asking for is to teach people both sides of the equation in a fair manner and let people make up their minds for themselves. And also we need to understand, again, that when people are not hearing both sides of a discussion, left and right suffer. Liberal students are going and leaving college having never even heard conservative ideas. And I think that's one reason why there is such an aversion. It's easy to think that something is racist. It's easy to think that something is terrified and bigoted if you never actually learn about what it is. And right now in class, every day around the country, students are told, don't ask questions, don't associate with the right, don't read anything about them. They're just terrified into being silent. And with this cancel culture going on, young people, they're not actually doing their research, because if they actually are caught looking into what's going on with conservatives, if they go to a conservative meeting or anything that's not in line with the left, they're going to be ostracized. They run the risk of being canceled. That's why they're not doing their own research. So we have to be able to change what's going on there in the hearts and minds and education system, open it up to be more free to discussion if we're going to change it. But it is an uphill battle. There's no doubt about that, because you are right. Traditionally speaking, young people leave our education system being liberal. We need to stop that trend and at least open things up to all ideas.
Cabot Phillips, thanks for being with us. We'll take more of your video whenever you got it available. Thanks, Cabot. All right, I'm going to update the